Have you ever checked your phone for the 10th time in 5 minutes? Not because you received a notification, but because you were hoping one would appear. One text, one call, one tiny sign that someone is thinking about you. And when it finally comes, you feel an incredible rush of relief. Your heart beats faster. You smile without realizing it. Everything suddenly feels okay again. But then, hours pass without another message. Your mood changes. Your thoughts spiral. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? What if they found someone else? Without noticing, your entire emotional state begins depending on another person's attention. Here's the unsettling truth. Psychologists have discovered that romantic rejection activates many of the same brain regions involved in drug withdrawal, which raises an uncomfortable question. What if what you're feeling isn't love? What if it's addiction? Today, we're uncovering the hidden psychology behind obsessive love, why some relationships consume us, why walking away can feel physically painful, and how to tell the difference between genuine love and emotional dependence. Because once you understand what your brain is really doing, you may never look at love the same way again. Love has inspired poems, started wars, built families, and broken hearts. It's one of the most powerful emotions human beings can experience. But despite centuries of songs, movies, and romantic stories, very few people are taught the psychology behind it. We learn how to fall in love. Nobody teaches us how to recognize when love becomes unhealthy. Because not every intense relationship is a healthy one. Sometimes the butterflies in your stomach aren't butterflies at all. They're anxiety. Sometimes what feels like passion is actually fear of abandonment. And sometimes what we call love is simply our brain desperately searching for its next emotional reward. Today we'll explore why love can become addictive, how your brain quietly rewires itself, and why millions of people mistake emotional dependency for romance. Imagine you're walking through a casino. Hundreds of slot machines are flashing lights. Most people know gambling can become addictive. But why? It's not because people love slot machines. It's because they love the feeling their brain creates. Love works in a surprisingly similar way. When someone you're attracted to smiles at you, holds your hand, or sends a simple text saying, "Thinking about you," your brain releases dopamine. Many people call dopamine the pleasure chemical, but neuroscientists describe it differently. Dopamine isn't really about pleasure. It's about anticipation. It's the chemical that tells your brain, "That felt important. Do it again." Every affectionate interaction becomes a tiny reward. A hug, a compliment, a notification, a kiss, a late-night phone call. Each one strengthens a neural pathway. Slowly, your brain begins associating one specific person with emotional relief. Without realizing it, you're no longer just enjoying their company. You're relying on it. Think about social media for a moment. Every notification creates a tiny burst of dopamine. That's why people instinctively refresh their feeds, even when nothing new has happened. Now replace Instagram with a romantic partner. Every message becomes a reward. Every reply becomes reassurance. Every delay becomes uncertainty. And uncertainty is where addiction quietly begins. Because your brain starts craving not the person themselves, but the emotional high they provide. That's why people often describe being unable to stop thinking about someone. Their thoughts aren't always driven by love. They're driven by reward-seeking behavior, the same psychological mechanism that keeps gamblers pulling the lever can also keep someone emotionally attached to a relationship that's slowly hurting them. The brain doesn't ask, "Is this relationship healthy?" It simply asks, "Where's my next reward?" And that's a dangerous question, Because once another person becomes your primary source of emotional validation, you slowly lose the ability to regulate your emotions on your own. Now, here's where things become even more fascinating. Imagine two relationships. In the first, your partner is consistently kind. They communicate honestly. They show affection regularly. You know where you stand. In the second relationship, some days they're loving. Other days they're distant. Sometimes they reply instantly. Other times they disappear for hours or even days. Logically, which relationship should be easier to leave? Most people assume the second one. Psychology says the opposite, because unpredictable rewards are far more addictive than predictable ones. Behavioral psychologists call this variable reinforcement. It's the same principle that keeps people addicted to gambling. A slot machine doesn't pay every time. If it did, it would actually become boring. Instead, it rewards people randomly, and that unpredictability keeps them pulling the lever. Relationships can work the same way. When affection is inconsistent, your brain becomes hyper-focused on earning the next moment of connection. You begin analyzing every conversation, every text, every pause, every emoji, searching for clues, trying to predict when the next emotional reward will arrive. Ironically, the healthiest relationships often feel peaceful. The unhealthy ones feel exciting, not because they're filled with more love, but because they're filled with more uncertainty. And uncertainty keeps the brain emotionally engaged. What many people describe as chemistry is sometimes nothing more than anxiety wearing the mask of passion. The emotional roller coaster feels exciting because your nervous system never gets a chance to relax. And that's the first warning sign that love may be transforming into something much more dangerous. But here's the twist that changes everything. The people most likely to become addicted to love aren't necessarily the most emotional or the weakest. In many cases, their brains were simply trained to expect love this way. Long before they experienced their first kiss, their first relationship, or their first heartbreak. To understand why, we have to go back to where every relationship truly begins. Childhood. Imagine a child growing up in a home where affection is unpredictable. Some days, and their parents are loving, supportive, and emotionally available. Other days, they're distant, distracted, critical, or completely absent. The child quickly learns an important lesson. Love isn't guaranteed. It's something that has to be earned. Without realizing it, the brain begins forming an invisible blueprint for future relationships. Psychologists call this attachment style. It's the emotional map your brain uses to decide what love is supposed to feel like. If love was inconsistent, your nervous system may grow up believing inconsistency is normal. As an adult, you may find yourself strangely attracted to emotionally unavailable people, not because they're good for you, but because they feel familiar. And the brain has an interesting habit. It often mistakes familiarity for safety. This is why some people keep repeating the same painful relationship over and over again. Different faces, different names, the same emotional story. They're not consciously choosing suffering. Their subconscious is trying to recreate the environment it understands best. Because deep inside, it still believes that if it can finally earn love from someone unavailable, it will heal an old wound. But healing doesn't come from repeating the pattern. It comes from recognizing it. This is where love addiction becomes truly dangerous. At first, you simply enjoy spending time together. Then, you start canceling plans with friends. Your hobbies slowly disappear. Your goals become less important. Eventually, you stop asking yourself, what do I want? Instead, every decision revolves around one question. What will make them happy? Without realizing it, your identity begins to merge with theirs. Their mood becomes your mood. If they're happy, you're happy. If they're upset, your entire day falls apart. If they ignore your message, your mind immediately assumes the worst. This isn't intimacy, it's emotional dependency. Your self-worth is no longer coming from within. It's being borrowed from someone else. And borrowed confidence is always temporary. The moment they withdraw affection, your confidence disappears with it. That's why breakups can feel so devastating. You're not only grieving the loss of a person, you're grieving the version of yourself that only existed through them. The relationship didn't just become part of your life, it became your entire identity. Now here's the question that psychologists say reveals everything. One simple question that can instantly tell the difference between healthy love and emotional addiction. Ask yourself honestly, if this person disappeared from your life tomorrow, would you miss them or would you lose yourself? Those are two completely different experiences. Healthy love says, I deeply value you. Addiction says, I cannot function without you. Healthy love creates freedom. Addiction creates fear. Healthy love encourages growth. Addiction demands constant reassurance. Healthy love allows two complete people to walk side by side. Addiction slowly convinces one person they are incomplete without the other. Real love doesn't ask you to abandon yourself. It doesn't require you to sacrifice your identity, your peace, or your self-respect. Love should expand your world, not shrink it. Because the strongest relationships aren't built on emotional dependence. They're built on emotional choice. Every single day, two people choosing each other instead of needing each other to survive. That difference changes everything. Perhaps the greatest lie we've ever been told is that the most intense love is the deepest love. Movies celebrate obsession, songs glorify heartbreak, stories convince us that jealousy proves passion, and emotional chaos proves romance. But psychology tells a very different story. The healthiest love usually feels calm, safe, predictable. It doesn't leave you questioning your worth every night. It doesn't make you afraid to speak honestly. It doesn't force you to earn affection. Because real love isn't measured by how much someone consumes your thoughts. It's measured by how much they support your growth. If one person controls your happiness, your confidence, and your sense of identity, you haven't found freedom. You've surrendered it. And no relationship, no matter how passionate, is worth losing yourself. The goal of love was never to complete you. It was to connect two already complete human beings. Understanding that difference might save you from years of emotional pain. Sometimes the greatest act of love isn't holding on. It's learning how to stand on your own, so that when you choose someone, it's from a place of wholeness, not emptiness. Because the healthiest relationships aren't built by people searching for someone to rescue them. They're built by people who have already learned how to rescue themselves. If this video made you see love from a completely different perspective, don't keep this insight to yourself. Share it with someone who may need to hear it. And if you're fascinated by the hidden psychology behind human behavior, why we think the way we think, why we repeat the same patterns, and how understanding your mind can completely transform your life, then subscribe to Mind Cipher. Every week we decode the invisible forces shaping your emotions, relationships, and decisions, using psychology, neuroscience, and philosophy to help you understand the most complex mystery of all, the human mind. And before you go, answer this in the comments. Have you ever mistaken emotional dependence for love? Or do you think there's a clear difference? Sometimes the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep decoding the cipher hidden inside your own mind.